Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I created the shadows and desaturated colour for the skin tones. Be sure to watch it right through till the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. Just placing a center point in the middle of my board. It's a 4" by 5" study, and I've done the same on the reference image. From this point I'm using imaginary angles to find the shapes, and I can use the corner of the actual shape of the area as well, using a pencil on a vertical plane and horizontal plane to find the relationship from one area to another area to find the location of it. Now just making it very sort of light pressure on the etch pencil just to create a very fine line, and then I'll firm it up later once I'm happy with the position of it. Just really be open, bring that image into you so you're drawing it from inside yourself into your heart. I tend to have the reference image quite small as well, so I can see the whole image. That way it helps to create the proportions correctly. If you would like to know more about how I create the outline using freehand method, I've got quite a few videos in my channel now, so I'll just shine a couple of examples up on screen now for you, and I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check those out after the video. Here's a selection of colours I'll be using for the underdrawing. These are Pastel pencils, Contier Paris pencils and Caran d'Ache one. First of all then, just putting the white down first, light pressure where it's mid-tone, more pressure where it's highlight, and just getting a basic shape. All the ideas of the underdrawing is to correct the outline and just get everything into position. I'm not interested in the values or the chroma, it's just about moving things around, making sure that it's in the correct position, and also there's a slight bit of form there just to get me an idea of how it feels. But it's a good chance really to enjoy the freedom of just moving things around, and I'm playing about with different colours that I'll be using, like using the red with the green together to desaturate it to make the shadows, using blue here because of reflected light, and just basically building it up. Just taking my time with it, and then put the red down with the green, which will desaturate a colour, makes it more of a sort of grey colour, and same here, just putting a darker green with the warm red for the shadows. Now for the eyes I'm using these two colours here, which is orange and blue. Now the blue and orange are complementary, so they do create natural shadows. You can have a warmer shadow by adding more orange, and then cooler by adding the more blue. So it's quite versatile, and it's quite a nice colour for teeth as well, those two combinations. Just roughly putting in now the idea of the iris, just using basic brown and white to start with. There's loads of colours in there, but I'll put them in on the rich colour stage. Again, using dark green and red to desaturate and to create shadows, and just basically building up that form. It's just an idea, just moving things around just so I can get these sort of elements in, these basic shapes of where the light and shade's going to be. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Just using the pencil on the horizontal plane there just to compare where the line of these plats are, you know, the points, and compare it with what I've done already with the drawing. I'm trying to get all the elements in before I start with the rich colours, so I'm getting all the background in. It's only very roughly done. Just putting a bit of blue in there for a highlight. Put the black down with blue, it creates deeper shadows. And then for the top of the hair there, I'm just mapping it out with the brown to start with, and when I'm happy with the placement on it, I've gone over with the black. Using the richer Caran d'Ache reds there, with the Faber-Castell white now for the rich colour stage, and the same colours I've used previously, which I'm shining up here. It's just laying more pigment on now to get that sort of vividness and that sort of depth of colour. But as this reference image is in shadow, do have to desaturate it. You still have to put that pigment down, but you have to desaturate it. So that red, the complementary of red is green, so I'm adding that to it to desaturate it, and it gets rid of the glow of the pure red pencil. Adding some blue over that just to create a purple look to it. What I tend to do is do some colour notes here and there, so I'm sort of adding more pigment in certain areas, then go into another area and try and get an overall balance, and then just fill in around it then. So I'm doing a little bit of highlight there, top of the lips, and then now a bit of shadow here, just trying to work out the balance of the values and what's needed. So I'm not putting the details in, this is not a detail stage, it's another block in, but it's more richer colour. The reason I did the underdrawing is to be able to move things around easier, because there's not so much pigment, but now it's about putting pigment on. Now I know the placement's okay, and I'm happy with that. I have got confidence to lay this colour on there then, and that's what I'm doing, is just putting more and more pigment down, and every layer adds more and more sort of subtlety to the texture of the skin. So it's all sort of works together, if you like. What I tend to do is squint a lot just to compare values, and also I'm looking at the chroma as well and reflected light, and even though it's in shade, there's certain parts that glow more than others, so you have to take into account that. Just like to take this opportunity to thank all my patrons for all their wonderful support every month. I can't thank you enough. If you're considering joining me on Patreon and would like the benefit of longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please check out the link in the description below for more details. As my technique sort of develops, it adds more and more detail as I progress, but it's a suggestion of detail, and it gets more finer as I go along, so I keep blocking in with these colours, but the details seem to take care of themselves. It seems to be a finer block in, but I will come back to that again later and add more to it. So it's a case of just keep building it up and building it up until it gets finer and finer and finer, so it all becomes one then and balanced. Just slowing it down to real time now, so you can actually see how I'm putting this blue and orange together in the white of the eyes. So you've got to put that pigment down, and then adding that orange desaturates it, but you've got to have enough pigment to work with. So it's a case of gauging what's needed. You know, obviously the deeper shadow it is, the more pigment you need down. But I'm using the Faber-Castell here because there's quite a bit of a chroma or a glow to the white, so the white of the eyes. So I needed to put this sort of fresh white in, because the Carbothello white seems to be duller. I found the Faber-Castell white is ideal, or the Caran d'Ache, but with the Faber-Castell you can sharpen it more to a point, so I quite like that. So it's a case of just keep moving things around, changing it up slightly, and persevering really until it becomes the correct tone. Little tip here for the highlights of the eye is to twist the point, and the pastel mat, with it being a standard board, it will grab the pigment, and if it doesn't seem light enough, just dab in a little bit of Rembrandt white pigment in there, and then moving it around with the Faber-Castell seems to do the trick. It gives more sort of vividness to the white. Now normally I use brown and blue to create shadows with the pastels, but sometimes you just can't get that depth, so you have to use that little bit of black here and there. And the Carbothello black is superb because it's like creates a natural shadow, so quite a fascinating black that is, so I recommend getting one of those. Now using different combinations of reds with the green to create that natural shadow, Sometimes it's a cold red, sometimes it's a warm red. You just have to experiment to see which works best. Here's a little real time again for you, just to show you how I'm using the Carbothello white pencil. It's quite chalky, so it's really nice for tinting with. It creates really natural soft blends as well. Now I'm aware of the whole all the time, so I'm trying to work on certain areas just to create balance overall. So I might be working on, say, the eye, then all of a sudden I'll go into the hair. I'll just let my instincts take me where I want to go, so I don't have any set ideas what I'm going to do. I just let it flow. So I might work on the hair a little bit just to put a little bit of shadow in there, then go back to the eyes like I'm doing here. So what I'm doing now is just putting some eyelashes in with the brown first, just to get an idea of the placement, but then I'm going around the area around it now and getting the shadow in before I continue with that. So it's a case of trying to get the overall balance all the time, flipping from one to other, until you're happy with how it feels. Then it gives you a better idea. Then when I go back to the eyelashes, it gives me a better idea of what sort of value they are and how they feel against everything else. So it's a case of just sort of being aware of that. Here's some more real time for you, so you can see how I'm getting the texture. I'm using the side of the pencil, but I'm letting it just drag across the actual pastel mat, so it's actually taking that pigment off itself. I'm not putting any pressure at all on this. I'm putting very, very small circles, creating that sort of texture I'm looking for, because the skin's not smooth, got all sorts of little sort of subtleties in there, and I'm building them up layer after layer. So I'm putting that white down, glaze over again. I'm putting more pigment in here as well, because with it being shadow, it needs to have more pigment. So I'm placing that in, and then I'll go again with the white, and I keep going backwards and forwards until I get the desired result. Now it's time now for the detail stage really. It's going around putting that sort of finesse and the final touches here and there, and just making everything finer and more sort of balanced, and looking overall. So on this stage I'm looking in the mirror a lot, seeing how it looks, keep standing back, and just feeling my way and just trying to get that correct, the balance. So I'm squinting my eyes, getting the value right, the chroma, the temperature. So there's all these things happening, but now I've got that sort of done in the hair. Now I'm trying to put that value now in the eyelashes. Now you've got to be careful not to make them too black, so they'll end up like spiders, you know, on the eyes, because they're not really black, they're like a blue black, these sort of very subtle colour. You have to look at the darkest area in your painting and then compare how it looks against it, and then neutralise it or make it less dark to balance up. If you're enjoying this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. Now the background there, I'm just keeping it nice and soft. I'm using a Carbothello 110 pencil. It's called grey white. I use it a lot in my background work because it naturally desaturates things and it softens it and it sends it backwards. So rather than using white, I'm using that 110. The wisps of hair, I'm using the Carbothello black. I'm using the edge of the pencil point, because I can keep turning the pencil and find another edge, because I sharpen with a knife, and I'm constantly turning it and just finding that sort of that flow. So you just flow with it and just go a little bit random where the marks are. You don't have to do exactly like the reference, but just get that feeling of there's little bits of hair, just to create more of a natural look to the actual plait there. And just to soften them edges, I'm just dabbing it with a cotton bud, which just does the trick here and there, just to soften things up. The best way I've found to do freckles is to just put some olive green down first and then a bit of red on the top, and then you can just soften it then or tint it with the white. And I'll just continue to do that, just place them roughly where they are. Just sometimes you don't put so many in, you just put enough that it gives that suggestion of freckles. But generally this stage here, the detail stage, is just tidying things up, just making sure that things are balanced and sort of making the actual grain of the texture a little bit smaller in areas, and just creating the overall balance and just really enjoying connecting to the energy of the reference image as well. So the more you can sort of send love to it or open your heart to it, the more the energy will come back and flow through your the hands. So the more you can do that, the more these details just take care of themselves. Now, if you're interested in our mixed colours, I have got a free class. It is actually a colour wheel based on skin tone shadows, but it applies really to everything I do: landscape, seascapes, whatever it is, wildlife. So you're welcome to it. Just check out the link in the description below for more details. It's worth spending a lot of attention on making sure that the feeling of the eyes is correct, because a lot of emotion and the soul is shining through the eyes. So I do tend to sort of really spend a lot of time making sure that everything feels right. Look in the mirror a lot, make sure the shape of the iris is correct as well. So I'm adjusting it. I'm using the colour shaper here just to adjust things as well, by just dabbing it just to soften those edges, because that makes a difference. Because it's all about getting the value, the chroma, the temperature and the edges right, and this tool here, which is the shaper, just really makes a difference, especially when you've got little areas where you can't just dab with your finger or use a cotton bud. It just makes all the difference, just moving things around. It's like a paintbrush, so you're just picking up the pigment and then just dabbing it and moving it around. Thank you so much for watching the video right till the end. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. It would be really good for the channel. I really appreciate it. Now, if there's any questions at all, please leave a message in the description below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now, if you want to see any more of my work, please check out this video here. Take care. Bye for now.